So this is the Mishnah Tamid that we can read. You don't have to, but you can read it after Tikkun Chatzot. So it says, Mishnah 1. Again, this is Tamid. Mishnah 1. There are 3 places in the temple where the Kohanim stood watch. In the chamber of Avtinas, in the chamber of Nitzutz, in the furnace chamber. The chamber of Avtinas and Nitzutz were upper stories built next to the gates of the temple courtyard, and the archers stood guard there. The furnace chamber was domed. It was a large chamber which had banks of hewn stone slabs protruding from the walls, and the elders of the priestly division, which was on duty that night, slept there, with the keys to the temple courtyard in their hands. The young guard of the Kohanim also slept there, each one on his own mattress on the ground. They did not sleep in their priestly robes. They would take them off, fold them up, and place them under their heads, sleeping in their own clothes. If one of them had an emission, he would go out through the passageway that went under the Temple Mount. It had lighted candles on both sides until he reached the mikveh. It had a fireplace, and there was also a seat of honor, a bathroom. The rule was that if he found it locked, it meant that someone was there. If it was open, he knew that there was no one there. He would go down and immerse, and get out of the water and dry himself and warm himself up by the fireplace. He would come and sit with his fellow priests until the temple gates were opened, when he would leave and go off. Since the emission rendered him impure, he couldn't serve for the entire day until nightfall. Whoever wanted the mitzvah of taking off the ash from the altar would get up early and immerse even before the arrival of the officer in charge of the lottery. What time did the officer arrive? It was not always the same time. He would arrive shortly before or after the crowing of the rooster. The officer would come and knock on the gate, and they would open it for him. They would say, "Whoever has immersed should come and take part in the lottery." The lottery was held, and whoever won, won. Mishnah 3. The officer took the key and opened the small gate and entered the courtyard. The Kohanim followed him with 2 lit torches in their hands. They split into 2 groups. One group went along the portico running eastwards, and the other along the portico running westwards. They checked to see if all the utensils were in their places, until they both came to the bakery, where the high priest's daily mincha offering was prepared. When they met, they said, "Peace, all is peace." They appointed bakers to make the mincha offering. The priest who won the lottery to clear the ashers would do so now, and they would tell him, "Be careful not to touch the shovel until you wash your hands and feet from the laver." The shovel was placed on the west side of the altar ramp, next to the altar. Nobody went in with him. He did not have a torch in his hand. He would see his way with the light of the fire of the altar. They could not see him or hear what he was doing until they heard the sound of the wooden laver that Ben Katin, the mechanic, made for raising and lowering the laver. They would then say, "It's time." He washed his hands and feet from the laver, took the silver shovel, and went up to the top of the altar and moved the coals to the sides. He would take some of the coals from the middle of the fire, which were well burned. He then made his way down. When he reached the floor, he turned north and went about 10 cubits along the east side of the ramp. He piled up the coals on the floor, 3 handbreadths from the ramp. This was where the bird crop offerings were placed, as were the ashes from the incense altar and the menorah.